Halo Combat Evolved has some of the most unique and interesting AI that I have ever experienced in video games, and the game is called genre defining for a reason. I've always found Halo to be a sandbox game over anything else, and the way the AI reacts is exactly the reason for it. In this video, I'm going to cover the behavior of Halo Combat Evolved's Covenant AI, enemy design, and how it creates a unique experience. If you end up enjoying the video, please help the algorithm find it by liking the video. And do subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. Without any further delay, let's get started with the two of the most vital mechanics behind the behavior of Halo Combat Evolved's AI. First, it's the small-scale reactions and responses that individual units perform. Each character in the game scans the area around it, focuses on a target, and engages them if they are out of cover. Second is the assigned firing points placed all over the map. The AI keeps moving from place to place, and depending on the firing point that they are standing on, they perform the assigned action according to that firing point. Thus, constant movement along with performance of various activities such as taking cover or engaging, alongside the individual reactions of each unit, creates an illusion of intelligence which puts Halo's AI leagues apart. Now, what makes this even more interesting and enriching are the various types of unique enemies that the Halo universe has to offer, which brings us to the focus of this video, the Covenant. Let's begin with the Grunts. The Grunts are the most basic enemy unit in the game, and you can probably tell that by the name that they are given. They're mostly cannon fodder. They're divided into various ranks as displayed on the screen, and they are colored accordingly so as to make it possible for the players to differentiate amongst them right from the start. This is a very basic thing that Halo does right. It makes the enemies distinguishable and recognizable. They are introduced in the Pillar of Autumn. The very first interaction that the player has with the Grunts is them running away from the player, which establishes them as the coward type. This is a very important interaction, as this defines the whole psyche of the enemy. Them running away with their arms flailing tells the player that these folks are going to be easy to deal with and invites the player to rush them. The Grunts are also highly team sensitive. They are almost always put under an elite's leadership. The AI constantly checks if there are elites present in the proximity. If yes, then they continue fighting. If not, then they panic and start going haywire. This is demonstrated with the hands flailing animation, Grunts running away, and the voice lines such as "Leader dead, run away." This leaves them highly vulnerable to be picked off. This also makes the fights highly strategic, as you can simply kill off the leader or the elites to win the whole encounter. The psyche and character of the Grunts is also developed with the help of their speech and the pitch of their voice, and the lines used by them. Have a listen.
Not again! It wasn't me! I see one! Over there! Look! I smell one! Victory!
Talking about the visual design of the Grunts, they need to carry methane cylinders on their back, as that is what they breathe. This makes them highly clumsy and unable to make quick maneuvers, leaving them further vulnerable to players' contrasting mobility. If I give myself some more room for assumption, the Grunts' feet have a hooved look to them, which we associate with cattle, and innately they don't possess any harm. Further, the character of the Grunts keep developing later during the campaign, where you often find them napping. Overall, the AI and the design choice of this character do an outstanding job of educating the player about the non-threatening nature of this foe. Next, we have the Jackals with their shields. These guys are one of the most innovative enemies that video games have blessed us with. They carry around an alien shield which makes them highly defensive and efficient in their supportive role. Mostly accompanied by the Grunts and the elites, they are placed to soak up damage and annoy the player with short bursts of plasma pistol shots. Additionally, carrying on their support role, these guys tend to shoot the player with supercharged shots which drain all of Master Chief's shield, forcing the player to get rid of them as soon as possible, as leaving them be and focusing on other enemies can prove fatal. Lore-wise, these guys are good at scouting, hence we see their skirmisher variant in future titles. However, spotting the player and alerting others about the chief's whereabouts is still present in Combat Evolved. The shields which the Jackal carry tend to deflect projectiles, both human and Covenant, and absorb plasma, which in turn drains it. This again encourages the player to switch between different weapons if they wish to destroy the shields. Once their shields are destroyed, the Jackals tend to rush to the nearest cover while waiting for them to recharge. However, if pursued, they do not hesitate to shoot the player. Alternatively, the devs also conveniently place a groove at the edge of the shield, exposing the arms of the Jackal. Shooting the area staggers the Jackals, leading them to expose their whole body for easy picking. Character-wise, the Jackals are more animal-like than the rest of the Covenant, at least as far as Combat Evolved is concerned. The biggest contributor to this is the lack of comprehensible speech or even resemblance to it. The Jackals simply use shrill and crude vocal sounds and yells. Talking about the visual design, the eye placement is on the sides, which is common in prey. Although contrary to their nature, it does establish them as more animal-like and giving them a wider field of view. Wearing an outdated mohawk along with their human-like forelimbs familiarizes them a little, but the hind limbs and their teeth don't help their cause much. The Jackals are very well-balanced units which enrich the encounters of Halo CE. Next up are the Sanghili, or the iconic elites, and just like the grunts, the name of the elites very well positions their place in the Covenant hierarchy. The elites are the first enemy that you see in the game, and the first one you come up close with. Behavior of the elites is quite different from the other enemies discussed so far. The first time you come face to face with an elite, it performs an enraged action with a rather brutish roar. Additionally, you spot one elite rather than a group, which tells the player that these guys are very confident and not afraid to engage humans alone. The elites are the only Covenant to carry energy shields just like the Master Chief, and they function similarly too. Now, there are a couple of things to talk about here. First is the sense of familiarity. Player likes to feel in control, and the similarity helps them decode the enemies easily. So, if the shields function similarly to the chiefs, the player knows they need to persistently shoot at the elite without leaving it any room to recharge and kill it off once it's down. If given enough time, the elites do find cover and let their shields regenerate. This tiny bit of strategy becomes second nature eventually, but it still requires some skill and therefore is more rewarding than many other games of the genre where you simply shoot at the enemies with bullets. It makes the players feel smart. Secondly, it creates a sense of comparative association. Master Chief, or the player, is the only character in human side which has an energy shield equipped. One. On the other hand, the Covenant have countless elites with energy shields. Many. This one versus many situation created from this small design choice somewhat exemplifies the whole setting of the game. It shows how the odds are totally against the humans. It is not an even fight and the player must struggle through for victory. This makes every little win feel more deserved and fulfilling, creating a sense of the player feeling like the chosen one, the savior of humanity, and that is exactly what Master Chief is. Now, a game can do these things explicitly, but it gives a game much more credibility and impact if it is supported by undertones like these. The elites possess much more intellect and battle prowess than any other Covenant that we face in Combat Evolved. Hence, they assume the leader's role at all levels. The elites have a very aggressive fighting style. If the player decides to rush them, they are not afraid to fight back. While it is possible to push into the grunts and jackals to melee them in one shot, it is very dangerous to engage elites up front, as the developers have equipped these guys with very strong melee attack, which can prove fatal to the player. On a slightly wider scale, from a game design perspective, this breaks up the combat pattern of Halo Combat Evolved and encourages more innovative and cautious gameplay instead of simple run and gun style. The flavor of the elites is further enhanced by their audio design. The enemy has deeper and more prominent speech pattern. Instead of speaking broken English and playing catch-up, the elites proudly use their own language, which, by the way, is just English reversed.
Hello, soldier. Don't even try it, soldier. I don't get it.
The foreign tongue being thrown around the battlefield creates a tense environment, as the player does not know what the speech means and therefore cannot act accordingly. Visually, the elites look sick. Standing at around 8 feet tall with armor-clad reptilian body, they do look like a force to be reckoned with. Looking tall and slender when relaxed, but once in combat, they hunch down and take up a predator-like pose. They are the most human-shaped Covenant in the game, yet the most distinguishable feature about them is their face, especially their jaws. A distinctive quad-mandible structure, 4 hinged jaws surrounding a mouth, often filled with sharp, conical teeth. Their armor is shiny and unapologetically brightly colored, which also represents their ranks: Blue Minor, Red Major, Yellow Ultra, Active Camo Stealth, and Black Spec Ops. The elites are in fact an elegant and destructive package in the Covenant arsenal. Last but not the least are the Hunters. Huge hulking monstrosities and the definition of tanks. The Hunters are slow and bulky, but they more than make up for that with their firepower. Armed with a plasma cannon and a shield, they deal massive damage both at range and in melee. They are generally placed to protect strategic spots, as they have a defensive fighting style. Hunched down with shields covering most of their body leaves little room for the players to deal damage. The shields massively negate any damage, and the rest of their structure is covered with thick blue armor. Now these may seem like bullet sponges, but that is far from the truth. While it is possible to kill them with countless bullets, stick them with grenades, or use rocket launchers, there are clever ways to dispatch them with these. There are gaps in their armor which reveal their orangish meaty parts. Once the player learns the attack patterns of the hunters, it is possible to juke their attacks, get behind them, and take a shot at their weak areas. This makes them quite vulnerable to the skilled players, making 1 vs 1 combat with hunters easy. However, that is seldom the case, as they always spawn in duos, making it more challenging. The player faces them for the first time in the mission Truth and Reconciliation, where they are dropped from the alien ship in a dramatic manner as the Covenant's last resort to try and stop Chief from entering the ship. The waves before this are filled with familiar enemies, but the last one, with a couple of hunters, adds a shocking factor as they drop and start shooting at the player with their explosive cannons. This sets up the framework of expecting them before reaching places of significant importance. There's something more than meets the eye about these guys. They aren't technically a single organism. They are actually a bunch of worms named Lekokolo forming a colony. They aren't very social with the rest of the Covenant and are rarely accompanied by them. However, they share a strong bond with their duo. They even have antennas on their back which often shake and vibrate, probably aiding communication. Facing hunters as a duo often isolates the fight from the usual combat, and it gives it more significance. A sense of mini-boss battle per se. The sound design again complements their stature. It is even rougher, lower, and deeper. But it is a little weird that a bunch of worms produce such noises. Even the grunting while they run is almost like they are panting. Their movement produces clanky metallic noises, reflecting how thick and heavy their armor is. Bungie certainly hit the mark with this one. This brings us to the end of this video. Halo Combat Evolved was my first serious game, and I have loved it ever since. The concept, the design, and the execution of this game are all phenomenal, and I loved covering a very small part of that. If you'd like to see me cover other aspects of the game, maybe the Marines or the Flood, make sure you subscribe, and feel free to drop your thoughts in the comments down below. This has been your host Rah-Q, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.